3 weddings, 3 men, 3 different ways to break the same woman. Marilyn Monroe married 3 times. Each husband loved her, or at least they thought they did. But love means nothing when you're loving the wrong person. James Dougherty loved a 16-year-old girl he thought he could save. Joe DiMaggio loved a fantasy he thought he could own. Arthur Miller loved an idea he thought he could fix. None of them loved Norma Jeane, the real woman, the broken child underneath the blonde hair and red lipstick. And each marriage, in its own way, proved to her what she'd always suspected, that she was fundamentally unlovable, that the wound carved into her in childhood could never heal. That abandonment was her destiny. 3 men, 3 failures, 3 different types of destruction, and at the end of all of it, she died alone, just like she always knew she would. June 19, 1942. Los Angeles. A 16-year-old girl stands in a borrowed wedding dress. Her name is Norma Jeane Mortensen, though she's used the name Baker, her mother's maiden name, for most of her life. She's marrying James Dougherty. He's 21 years old, 5 years older. He has a job at Lockheed Aircraft. He's stable, safe, boring. She doesn't love him. He doesn't love her. Not really. This isn't a love story. This is a transaction. A business arrangement disguised as matrimony. Norma Jeane is about to age out of the foster care system. Her current foster family, the Goddards, are moving to West Virginia. They can't take her with them. The options are stark and terrifying. Return to the orphanage, that place she spent nearly a year in when she was 9, that prison for unwanted children, or find another solution. Grace Goddard, her foster mother, suggests marriage. There's this nice boy from the neighborhood, James. He's reliable. He'll take care of her. It's not romantic. It's practical, survival masked as wedding vows. The ceremony is simple. 20 people attend. Norma Jeane wears a white dress that doesn't quite fit. She smiles for photographs, but her eyes are empty. She's performing already, playing the role of happy bride. But inside, she's terrified. She's a child. She should be in high school. She should be going to dances and worrying about homework and dreaming about her future. Instead, she's becoming a wife, taking on responsibilities she doesn't understand, binding herself to a man she barely knows. All to avoid going back to that orphanage. All to avoid being unwanted again. Marriage as escape. Marriage as survival, not marriage as love. They move into a small apartment. Norma Jeane tries to be a good wife. She cooks meals she doesn't know how to cook. She cleans. She does laundry. She plays house. James works long hours at the aircraft plant. When he comes home, he expects dinner on the table. He expects his wife to be waiting. He's not cruel. He's not abusive. He's just traditional, a product of his time. A man who believes a wife's place is in the home, supporting her husband, not having dreams of her own. Norma Jeane is still 16 years old. She's figuring out who she is, what she wants. But she's trapped in this role, this life that feels like someone else's. She looks at other girls her age. They're free. They're exploring. They're becoming people. She's stuck in domesticity before she's even finished growing up. Then the war expands. James enlists in the Merchant Marine. He ships out. Suddenly, Norma Jeane is alone. A teenage wife whose husband is overseas. She should feel lonely. She should miss him. But instead, she feels something else. Relief, freedom. For the first time since the wedding, she can breathe. She gets a job at the radioplane company. She works on the assembly line with other women. She's good at it. Reliable. Punctual. But more importantly, she's discovering something. She exists outside of being someone's wife. She has value beyond cooking and cleaning and waiting for a man to come home. The war gave her an escape she didn't know she needed. June 1945. The photographer walks into the factory, David Conover, looking for pretty girls to photograph for a morale-boosting magazine spread. He sees Norma Jeane. He asks if she'll pose. She's hesitant at first, shy. That childhood stutter returns, but then she agrees. And when he raises the camera, when the shutter clicks, something happens. She feels powerful, seen, wanted, not as James Dougherty's wife, but as herself, as Norma Jeane. The camera wants her. And that wanting is intoxicating. More intoxicating than anything James ever made her feel. December 1945. James comes home from the war. He expects to find his teenage bride waiting, ready to resume their domestic life, ready to be his wife again. Instead, he finds a stranger, a woman with blonde hair, a woman who talks about modeling and Hollywood and dreams that don't include him. They're incompatible. They always were. But now it's undeniable. James wants a traditional wife. someone who will cook his meals and bear his children and make his house a home. Norma Jeane wants to be somebody. She wants cameras and attention and a life bigger than this small apartment. They argue. He demands she stop modeling. She refuses. He says it's inappropriate for a married woman to pose for photographs. She says it's her chance, her only chance. He doesn't understand. How can he? He's never been unwanted, never been powerless, never needed to claw his way out of nothing. June 1946. Norma Jeane files for divorce. She's 19 years old. The marriage lasted 4 years. 4 years of pretending. 4 years of playing a role that never fit. James doesn't fight it. What would be the point? She's already gone. Already become someone he doesn't recognize. The divorce won't be finalized for months. California law requires a waiting period. But it doesn't matter. In her mind, the marriage ended the moment that photographer walked into the factory. The moment she saw herself through the camera's eye. The moment she realized her face was her fortune, her escape, her power. Years later, after Marilyn Monroe becomes famous, after she's dead, James Dougherty will do interviews. He'll talk about being married to Norma Jeane. He'll say she was a sweet girl, a good wife. He'll say he didn't understand her ambition, her need to be someone. He'll admit he tried to keep her small, keep her safe, keep her his. He'll say he loved her. And maybe he did, in his way, but he loved a girl who didn't really exist. A 16-year-old who was playing the role of wife to avoid the orphanage. He never knew the real her. The wounded child, the ambitious dreamer, the woman who would destroy herself trying to be loved. He married Norma Jeane to save her. But you can't save someone by trapping them. You can't love someone by making them smaller. James Dougherty was the first husband, the first man to fail her, but he wouldn't be the last. Fast forward to 1952. Norma Jeane Dougherty is dead. Marilyn Monroe is alive, vibrant, famous, the blonde bombshell, the sex symbol. Every man in America wants her. But there's one man who wants her differently, Joe DiMaggio, the Yankee Clipper, baseball legend, American hero. He's retired now from baseball, living off his fame, his legacy. He sees Marilyn's photograph. He wants to meet her. A friend arranges a blind date. March 1952. They meet at Villa Nova restaurant on Sunset Boulevard. Marilyn arrives late. Very late, making him wait, testing him. Joe doesn't seem to mind. He's smitten immediately. Not with Marilyn Monroe, the movie star, but with the woman underneath. At least that's what he tells himself. Joe pursues her for 2 years. He's patient, persistent. He sends flowers, takes her to dinner. He's a gentleman, old-fashioned, traditional, everything Hollywood isn't. Marilyn is attracted to his stability, his fame that matches hers, his masculinity. He's a man's man, strong, silent, protective. She thinks maybe this is what she needs. Someone who will take care of her, someone who will love her, really love her. Not Marilyn Monroe, but the broken girl underneath. She wants to believe Joe sees her, the real her. She wants to believe this time will be different. January 14th, 1954. San Francisco City Hall. Marilyn Monroe marries Joe DiMaggio. It's her second marriage. She's 27 years old. He's 39, 12 years older. She wears a dark suit with a white fur collar. He wears a blue suit. They smile for photographers. Hundreds of reporters and fans mob them outside. It's chaos. America's sex symbol marrying America's baseball hero. The perfect couple. The perfect American dream. The photographs are beautiful. They look happy, in love, like this might actually work. But beneath the smiles, the cracks are already forming, because Joe and Marilyn want different things. Incompatible things. Joe wants a wife who will retire from movies. Stay home, have children, be his, only his, private, domestic, traditional. Marilyn wants to be a star. She's worked too hard, sacrificed too much, become too famous. She's not giving it up, not for anyone, not even for Joe DiMaggio. The problems start immediately. Joe doesn't like her movie roles, doesn't like the way she dresses, doesn't like the attention she receives from other men. He's jealous, possessive. He wants to control her, not from cruelty, from love or what he thinks is love. He wants to protect her, keep her safe, keep her his. But Marilyn doesn't want to be kept. She spent her whole life being controlled, by studios, by foster families, by circumstances. She married Joe thinking he would be different, thinking he would see her as a person, not property. But he doesn't. He can't. He's from a generation where women belong to their husbands, where a wife's job is to support her man, where female ambition is threatening. February 1954. They're in Japan for their honeymoon. The U.S. military asks Marilyn to perform for troops in Korea. Joe doesn't want her to go, he wants her with him, on their honeymoon, being his wife. But Marilyn goes anyway. She performs for over 100,000 soldiers in 4 days. 10 shows. The men go wild for her, screaming, cheering, worshipping. When she returns to Joe, she's glowing, ecstatic. She tells him about the crowds, the love, the adoration. Joe is silent, angry. He sees the truth she doesn't want to admit. She needs this. The attention, the worship, the performance. She needs it more than she needs him, more than she'll ever need any man. The applause fills something inside her that his love never can. That void created in childhood. That space where a mother's love should have been. Nothing fills it except the roar of the crowd. September 15th, 1954. The night that destroys them. New York City, Lexington Avenue, 1 a.m. Marilyn is filming the subway great scene for the 7-year itch. 5,000 people have gathered to watch. Joe is there, standing in the crowd, watching his wife's skirt blow up around her waist, watching thousands of men whistle and cheer for her body, watching her laugh and enjoy their lust. He's humiliated, furious, powerless. This is his wife, his. And she's performing sexuality for the entire world. They return to their hotel. What happens next is disputed. Some say they argued, loudly. Neighbors heard shouting, heard Marilyn crying. Some claim Joe hit her, that she had bruises the next day. Others say it was just words, terrible words, a marriage ending in real time. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Violence doesn't always leave visible marks. October 27, 1954. Marilyn Monroe files for divorce from Joe DiMaggio. The marriage lasted 274 days. 9 months, she appears at a press conference. Her eyes are red behind dark glasses. She's been crying. She says the marriage is over. Mental cruelty. She doesn't elaborate. America is shocked. The perfect couple destroyed. But here's the thing about Joe. He never stops loving her. The anger fades, the hurt remains, but so does the love. He never remarries, never seriously dates anyone else. When she needs him most, when she's locked in a psychiatric hospital in 1961, terrified and alone, he comes. He saves her. And when she dies in 1962, he organizes her funeral. He excludes Hollywood. He cries at her casket. He sends roses to her grave for 20 years. Joe DiMaggio loved Marilyn Monroe more than any man ever did. But he loved her wrong. He loved her by trying to possess her. Control her. Make her smaller. You can't love a bird by putting it in a cage, even if the cage is made of gold. 1955. New York City. Marilyn flees Hollywood after divorcing Joe. She's studying acting at the Actors Studio, trying to be taken seriously. At a party, she meets Arthur Miller, the playwright. Death of a Salesman, The Crucible, Pulitzer Prize winner. He's everything Hollywood isn't. Intellectual, serious, political, Jewish, a man of letters, a man of ideas. They talk, really talk. Not Hollywood's small talk. Deep conversations about art and politics and meaning. Marilyn is smitten. She thinks this is it. Finally, a man who sees past Marilyn Monroe, a man who talks to Norma Jeane, a man who values her mind, not just her body. Arthur seems different from James and Joe. He doesn't want to control her. He doesn't want to own her. He wants to know her, or so she believes. Their relationship begins as an affair. Arthur is married, has children, but he leaves his wife for Marilyn. She's flattered, chosen. He chose her over his marriage, over his family. That must mean something. That must mean he really loves her. She converts to Judaism for him, studies with a rabbi, takes it seriously. She wants to be the woman he needs, the wife who fits into his world, the partner who understands his work. She's performing again. But this time, the performance is intellectualism. She reads books he recommends. She discusses plays and philosophy. She's trying to become worthy of Arthur Miller, trying to prove she's not just a dumb blonde. June 29, 1956. Marilyn Monroe marries Arthur Miller. Her third marriage, she's 30 years old. The wedding is small, quiet at the Westchester County Courthouse in New York. Then a Jewish ceremony 2 days later. She wears a simple dress. No Hollywood glamour. This is serious, real, different from the circus of her wedding to Joe. She believes this marriage will work. Arthur is different. He's not threatened by her fame. He's not trying to control her. He sees her as an equal, an intellectual partner, or so she thinks. They move to a farmhouse in Connecticut, away from Hollywood, away from the cameras. She's trying to be normal, a regular wife. But normal doesn't fit Marilyn Monroe. It never has. She gets pregnant. She's ecstatic. This is it, the thing she wants most. More than stardom, more than respect, more than anything, a baby. A chance to be the mother she never had. A chance to give a child what she never received: love, stability, permanence. She'll finally have a family, someone who won't abandon her, but her body betrays her. She miscarries. The grief is devastating. She gets pregnant again. Another miscarriage. Then a third pregnancy, ectopic, life-threatening, emergency surgery. The doctors are clear. She'll probably never carry a baby to term. Her uterus is damaged, scarred from endometriosis, from the abortions she had when she was young and broke and desperate. The dream dies, and something in Marilyn dies with it. The last hope for normal happiness. Gone. One day she finds Arthur's notebook. He's a writer, always writing, observing, recording. She reads what he's written about her. The words devastate her. He's disappointed. She's not as intellectual as he hoped. She's difficult, demanding, emotionally exhausting. The marriage is harder than he expected. She's not the woman he thought she was. She reads these words and realizes the terrible truth. Even Arthur, even the man she thought saw past Marilyn Monroe, even he only loved the fantasy. He fell in love with the idea of saving the broken, blonde bombshell, making her intellectual, fixing her. But she doesn't need fixing. She needs accepting. And Arthur can't accept the real her. The wounded child who needs constant reassurance. The insecure woman who takes too many pills. The complicated human being who doesn't fit neatly into his artistic vision. 1960, The Misfits. Arthur writes the screenplay specifically for Marilyn. It should be a gift, a love letter. Instead, it's a dissection. The character is based on her, a damaged woman searching for meaning, unable to find it. The filming is brutal. Nevada desert, oppressive heat. Marilyn is barely functional, pills, depression, breakdowns. She's hospitalized during filming. Psychiatric evaluation. Arthur watches his wife disintegrate, but he doesn't stop the production. He needs the film made. His career needs it. So Marilyn suffers through it, performing her own pain for his screenplay. Clark Gable, her co-star, is kind, patient, professional. 2 weeks after filming ends, he dies of a heart attack. Marilyn blames herself. Arthur blames her too, not explicitly, but she can feel it. The marriage is dead. They're just waiting for someone to say it out loud. January 20th, 1961. Marilyn Monroe and Arthur Miller divorce. The marriage lasted 4.5 years, longer than the others, but just as destructive, maybe more so, because Arthur gave her hope. Hope that someone could love the real her, the intellectual her, the damaged her. And then he proved that hope was false. Nobody could love Norma Jeane, not really, not completely, not enough. She's 34 years old, 3 failed marriages, no children, a career in ruins. A reputation as difficult and unstable. She's exactly where she started. Alone, unwanted, abandoned. The pattern repeating endlessly, a cycle she can't break. 3 marriages, 3 men who claimed to love her. James loved a girl he could save. Joe loved a fantasy he could own. Arthur loved an idea he could fix. None of them loved Norma Jeane, the broken child who stood at the orphanage fence hoping someone would choose her. The wounded woman who performed love because she didn't know what real love looked like. The human being underneath all the performance and pain. That woman was never loved, never truly seen, never accepted for exactly who she was. Each husband took something from her. James took her youth. Joe took her freedom. Arthur took her hope. And at the end of it all, she had nothing left to give, nothing left to lose, nothing left but the performance, and the pills, and the slow, inevitable descent toward August 5th, 1962. She looks in mirrors and sees 3 failed wives, 3 versions of herself that weren't enough. Wasn't young and innocent enough for James, wasn't domestic and obedient enough for Joe, wasn't intellectual and stable enough for Arthur. She tried to be what each of them wanted, performed different versions of femininity, morphed and adapted and changed. But it was never enough, because the problem wasn't her. The problem was that they fell in love with Marilyn Monroe, and Marilyn Monroe isn't real. She's a character, a performance, a costume Norma Jeane wears to survive, and you can't have a real relationship with a performance. You can't truly love a costume. The men who married her loved the idea of her, the fantasy, the symbol, the icon. None of them wanted to do the hard work of loving the actual woman. The messy, complicated, traumatized, pill-addicted, desperately insecure actual woman. That woman was too much work, too much need, too much pain, so they left, all of them. In different ways, but they all left. August 1962. Marilyn Monroe dies, and Joe DiMaggio comes. He organizes the funeral. He stands by her casket and cries. He whispers, "I love you," over and over. He sends roses to her grave for 20 years. He never remarries. He carries her with him until the day he dies in 1999. His last words are about Marilyn, about finally being with her again. Joe loved her. Imperfectly, possessively, destructively. But he loved her. And maybe that's the tragedy. That the man who loved her most loved her in a way that destroyed them both. Because love isn't enough. Not when it's love that requires the other person to be smaller, quieter, less. Joe loved Marilyn Monroe, but he couldn't accept what came with her. The ambition, the need for attention, the wounds that required more healing than one man could provide. So the love failed, like all her loves failed. 3 marriages, 3 failures, 3 different ways to prove the same terrible truth, that Norma Jeane Baker was unlovable. That's what she learned. That's what each divorce reinforced. The wound from childhood, the abandonment, the unwantedness. Each husband was a chance to heal that wound. Each divorce made it deeper, wider, more infected. By the time Arthur left, the wound was terminal, fatal, bleeding out slowly, killing her from the inside. She would try to fill it with Kennedy brothers, with fame, with pills, with anything and everything. But nothing worked. The wound was too deep, the damage too complete. And on August 5th, 1962, that wound finally consumed her completely. 3 men married Marilyn Monroe. None of them stayed. None of them could handle the reality of who she was. None of them loved Norma Jeane, and that's the story nobody tells. Not about the glamorous weddings or the famous husbands or the Hollywood romance, but about the pattern, the cycle of hope and destruction, the repeated abandonment, the evidence that accumulated with each failed marriage, evidence that she was right all along. That little girl at the orphanage fence, she was right. Nobody would choose her. Nobody would keep her. Nobody would love the real her. The marriages didn't fail because Marilyn was difficult or damaged or demanding. They failed because the men married a fantasy. And you can't build a real life with a fantasy. You can only watch it slowly die.